All right, everyone, welcome to another episode of Live Boldly with Sara. This is my son, Carson Kranz, and he's going to be joining us today to talk about mindset, mental health, well-being. He is going to introduce himself because, well, he's 22 and he can do that. Right, Carson?
Right.
All right, so come on up. Welcome to the pod. Did you know? Hey, wait, Carson, can I give you a little bit of statistics? A little bit of something that I just found out? So our podcast has grown 85% in the year of 2023. Did you know that?
Yeah.
I told you that yesterday. It's super exciting. And we are now streamed in 24 countries. 24 countries.
Very exciting.
It's very exciting. So maybe you can get us up to, I don't know, 32 countries and we can grow another 100% with this episode. Okay, so introduce yourself, my friend.
Hi, everyone. I'm a USC student athlete, senior this year, captain of the men's water polo team. Guess that's it.
That's it.
Yeah.
He's so much more than that. I love your humbleness. Okay, so where I want to dive in is this. Let's kind of give a little bit of a backstory on you and swimming. Obviously, I used to take you to the pool quite a bit. That's how you got into swimming, right? Like, What was can we just give like a little snapshot into the younger version of Carson? What was your favorite toy that you used to play with in the pool?
Probably a torpedo. I don't know.
It was the torpedo, and ding, 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 it was Power Rangers. Remember how you used to take the Power Rangers and you'd play with them in the pool? So you got into swimming, and then as time went on, you became a really good swimmer, right? Like you were swimming in.
Yeah, I was swimming pretty competitively. I mean, I started when I was 4, and that was up in Northern California, and then up until we moved when I think I was 9 or 10. And then I got into water polo down here. So, yeah.
Do you remember, and I know we go back and forth on this one. Do you remember when we first got you into water polo and we couldn't find, you were playing basketball at the same time as well, right? And I was like, hey, like swimming is really something that you're so good at. And so let's try water polo. Do you remember this whole thing? Can I share the story? All right. So I found this water polo team, this water polo club called Trojan Water Polo Club. And I took you to your very first practice. And did you like it?
I thought it was really long, but I did like it.
You did like it.
I missed the water, so.
Yeah. So then we got into the very first competitive match. And do you remember that?
I remember that, yeah.
What happened during that match?
I remember it didn't go particularly well, but in the back of my mind, I kind of knew that I should stick with this. So.
And so you were kind of like, okay, I don't know about this sport, but I kind of like this sport, but I don't understand this sport. And then I said, you have to give it 2 weeks. And if you give it 2 weeks, that's like the timeline. And then I said, if you don't like it after 2 weeks, you can quit. And what happens?
I'm the captain of the USC Men's Water Polo team now.
Yeah. There were some times, I'm going to tell you as your mom, that you wanted to quit. You may not remember that, but there were definitely some times where you're like, this sucks. This is really hard.
There definitely were.
And I kept saying, dude, two weeks. I don't think back then I called you dude, but now I do. But I was like, 2 weeks. You got to give it 2 weeks. And then if you don't like it, because a habit needs to continue, you got to like keep going, right? Until it becomes something that you really decide if you like or not. So now you're the captain of the men's water polo team. And I'm wearing your garb and cheering you on as a huge fan. So let's talk about how water polo, how the sport has helped you through your most difficult times, and also how has it helped like within those times of your life where you felt like you were up against a wall, maybe in mental health, especially because you guys went through COVID and all sorts of different things. You've lived through the divorce of your parents. So how has water polo been a helpful therapy for you?
Yeah, I mean,
come on up, babe.
I've been in a lot of different stages of my life. The one thing that's been constant has been water polo, or consistent. I think a lot of people have different reactions to certain events in their life, like big events. And for me, for like the divorce, through COVID, through a bunch of other things, yeah, I just kind of poured myself more into water polo. It was kind of the place where it was my passion, and a place where I felt like those emotions of the outside world couldn't get to you. And it was like my safe space. So, for that, I was really grateful that I stuck with the sport. And I mean, that's been my like thing for the past, over a decade. And then, eventually I'm going to find something else, and I can't wait for that opportunity as well. So, but yeah, it's been a major help for me, especially when I was younger with, all the divorce and everything. Like, it really helped. So I think developing the habit of going to practice, like training and, grinding like every day, waking up at the brink of dawn, I think it, made me into the person I am today. And ultimately, I'm really grateful for, it sucked at some points. It always does, but, I'm grateful for how it's gotten me to where I am now. So
How has go like when we're thinking about you being a swimmer where you're competing literally against yourself, right? And then you have those times where you're in a team and you're working with the team. How has that changed? Like what has shifted? How has it shifted for you going from, because you also did competitive swimming, right, in high school.
mhm.
So what is the difference, or what have you found the difference between a sport where it's just you and a sport where you actually have the team with you, surrounding you?
Yeah, I mean, it's completely different. Like, an individual sport such as swimming, you're just focused on yourself most of the time. I mean, there's like some like team relays, but most of the time you're like doing individual events. And so a lot of the time you're kind of focusing on yourself, whereas in the team setting, it's always you're putting the team in front of yourself, and that's, how good teams win. And I particularly enjoy working with a team more. I've been fortunate enough to be playing with USC for all these years, and I think it's always like such a long process, the full year getting the guys ready to, play in the NCAAs in December. And, it's a huge grind and it's a lot of sacrifice, but, at the end of the day, like it's in my eyes, it's worth it. And I think being a part of a team, I mean, my team especially, but just a team in general, like there's a lot of things that you can learn from the guys next to you. And I think it translates really well into the real world. When you're working a real job, and um, yeah, so I think being a team athlete has a lot of benefits, and it translates well.
All right, we're going to pin that because I actually want to talk about how it translates into life. So pin that thought. You can help me because you know that sometimes I forget. So I want to dive into when you're in the pool. Has there ever been a time for you? I know, like specifically, I'm thinking me when I'm climbing mountains or, on the ocean or whatever, and I'm working through stuff and I'm sitting with like a moment, right, where I'm like, oh my God, I remember that moment, or I remember that moment. Has there ever been a moment when you've been in the pool where you had to grind so deep and you really had to focus, or you had to use, that mental resilience or, fortitude to work through something? What was that moment, and how did that, could you go there? Could you go like to that moment?
Yeah, I think a lot of those like particular moments are probably when I was younger and going through a lot of challenges outside the water. So sometimes when I was younger, I let, the outside struggles going on in my life affect me in the water. But as I've gotten older, um, you learn to keep your two worlds separate. And I think, yeah, I mean, I can think of like times in high school, even times in college, like specific moments where I'm like the hard moments when you're in a 4 hour training and, you're dead tired physically, but it's the mental drive that keeps you going. It's like at that point, it's just your mental state of mind that's going to keep you going the extra mile. And, um, for me, I think one of the things that I do is I'm always telling myself that I can do it in my mind. Because if you have any thought that you can't complete the task at hand, then, there's a good chance that you won't. And so I think yes, the physical part of the sport is really important, but I think the mental part is the most important. And that's also additionally one of the things that translates really well into the real world, is building, the good habits, the killer mindset, like, and yeah, so.
Have you ever been overtaken by emotions, though? How do you keep your emotions in check? Because I think that that's actually, I think that that can be one of the most difficult things to do is, as you know, in my life too, because I'm a little bit of an emotional person sometimes, is actually keeping those emotions in check. So how have you ever had that where your emotions, you're like, oh God, like the emotions are starting to take over. And what have you done to correct that?
Yeah, I think for me, I'm a pretty calm and collected person, I would say.
Yeah.
And so for me, it wasn't ever really lashing out in anger, like punching someone or something like that. Like, yes, it's happened before, but it's not often. For me, it's more so I notice when I'm kind of in a funk, and I've been, in the recent years, I've been getting better at getting out of, like, if I'm in just like a slump or just things aren't going my way, again, it goes back to the mental attitude. Like, you always have to know that you're going to succeed, and you have to like truly believe that. You truly have to believe in your abilities. And for me, it's my training. Like, you got to believe in all the training that you did, all the hours that you put in, um, to know that like you're going to execute when game time comes. But the mental part is like the most important. I mean, even if you don't have all the hours of training, the mental part is you got to know that you can do it. And that, I mean, that's all facets of life. Like, yeah, I kind of lost my train of thought, but that was,
Welcome to my world.
um,
Okay, so what do you guys do though? Do you guys do visualizations or do you meditate or do you like what do you guys do? Do you see
yeah,
it? Like
I
I
mean,
mean, like right now I'm like seeing myself when I'm thinking about like how what I want to accomplish in life, being on stage, for example. I'm like I see myself up there first before I ever am there.
mhm.
And so what do you guys do?
Yeah, I mean, similar to that, we would meditate, um, almost before every practice. We would read a passage. One of our coaches would read a passage from this book, and we would meditate for about 5 minutes, just to kind of, because our practices are in the afternoon, and after a long day of school, again, like you want to separate your two worlds. And so the meditation was one of the ways we did that. Just kind of visualizing yourself, what you're going to accomplish in practice that day, for example, like what you're going to do better. For me, it was trying to get 1% better every day.
Ooh,
And
ooh, that's good.
um, and how you do that is by focusing on just a few things each day that you want to improve on. And, at the end of the practice, like, did I do that today? Um, and then did I execute these maybe three goals that you had for the practice? So, and that's just one way of gradually getting better over time. But and then yeah, going into the visualization part, I think, every night before games, I try and put myself in situations that I might be in the next day in the game. Um, because then if you do that, then you're going to be ready, when the time comes to execute, whether it's, that pass, that shot, the defensive stop, whatever it may be. Um, I think visualizing is super important. I haven't done it. I'm gonna be honest. Like, I don't do it before every single night before every game, but one thing I do before every game is I do these like 10-minute breathing exercises, just to kind of, for me, I'm already like hyped for every game, so I kind of have to like cool down and relax. And doing like box breathing, for example, is like one way I just
What
try
is
and get
that?
level-headed and clear-minded. It's like 4 seconds in, 4 seconds in, 4 seconds hold, 4 seconds out, 4 seconds hold, 4 seconds in. Yeah.
Cool.
Um, yeah, one of our coaches, um, brought that to when I was a freshman. He implemented that into our um, training. So
Interesting.
yeah, it's really interesting
That's
stuff. I
really
think
cool.
breathing is a really underrated thing, especially for athletes and anyone in general. I mean, I do them even if I'm like stressed out. I just take 5 minutes a day. I mean, it's really easy, but that's one way I personally like doing that more than trying to visualize myself. But I think visualization is super important. So especially if you're struggling, I think mentally going over all the um, like for you, it's going up on stage and thinking about what is like the message I'm trying to communicate to the audience. Um, for us, it's how am I gonna kick the other guy's ass?
Speaking of, have you ever had that where you're, because like me and the stands, there's been times where I'm like, hey, get off my kid, especially when you were younger, where, it's hard. It's hard watching another kid literally taking down your child in the pool.
That hasn't happened, but
Well, you know what I mean.
yeah.
Where they're like they're trying to. They're trying to.
Mhm.
Have you ever had that though, where you have had to keep your cool so much where you've actually had to like walk, like swim away from somebody, or where you
In practice, yeah. In practice, definitely. Where I'm at USC, we treat every practice like it's a real game. So it definitely can get very heated sometimes. And I mean, some people have even gotten in fights. Like it's very common, but it makes everyone better. I mean, because if you're treating, the real game or the training like a real game, then it's going to translate. If you're just kind of lollygagging in your training, then you're not going to execute when the time comes to execute. So I'm sure that translates into the real world as well. So
let's talk about that. Okay, let's talk leadership. You ready? Because you are now captain of the men's water polo team.
mhm.
Did you ever expect that?
Yeah,
Really? No kidding.
yeah,
That's awesome. I didn't know that. You were also, which I saw recently, you took us through the USC athletic area and everything, and your like life-size picture of you is representing men's water polo.
right. Hmm.
I love your humbleness. It's really
It's
cool.
pretty cool, yeah.
Dude, it's like super cool. It's
Yeah.
like super, super freaking cool. So did you ever expect that? Did you anticipate that at some point?
Yeah, I think, usually every year, like one player on the team is asked to represent the team. And I think in the back of my mind when I was a freshman and a younger player, I was like, I want to be up on the wall. But it wasn't like a goal of mine to be on the wall. Like, the goal is to win a national championship. Um, Obviously it's a cool like side, you know, thing, but um yeah, I don't think it was like necessarily a goal of mine, but it was definitely in my mind. Like I wasn't surprised, I guess, when they asked me to do it. I'll put it that way.
That's cool. Did you always, even as a young child, anticipate playing or competing at this level?
Yeah, I mean,
Dude, I didn't know this. This is really cool. Come up a
I
little bit
mean,
closer to the mic, though. There we go.
yeah, I can hear
Okay,
you.
okay, okay.
Yeah, I mean, it was a goal of mine when I was pretty young. I can't really date back necessarily to when exactly I was like, I want to play Division 1 college water polo, but I can imagine probably when I got to high school, right when I got to high school, I think the game was because when you're an age group in middle school, there's a certain level of play that you go through, and by the time you're 14 and in eighth grade, my team was at the top of the country kind of. We were like top three in junior Olympics, and so um but then the level rises when you get to high school. It's like you're a freshman. It's a completely different ball game. There's guys that are bigger than you, stronger, faster, and you kind of have to. And it was really hard to adjust to that level, but I think that's when I first was like, okay, like I want to do this. I want to play in college, especially just you develop role models in the sport from guys that are older than you, um, who go off to college and play, and you watch them play, and you're like, I want to be doing that. I want to be doing that. And so I think it was always in the back of my mind, and I think it gave me that extra drive to want to play at the top of, NCAA water polo and, get into a good school and use water polo to get into a good school. I mean, I'm like eternally grateful for the way it's played out. I mean, it's been pretty surreal. I kind of knew that I was, I kind of knew I was always going to end up at USC. Especially after I took an official visit, I was like, I mean, it was like the place that felt the most like home to me, and um, definitely, I mean, one of the best decisions of my life. Um, but yeah, I was like, I knew I wanted to do it, and I think having known that, it's just been a very surreal experience playing these last 3 or 4 years and having one more left. So yeah.
But go all the way back, like, because I do this with my clients too, where I have them go back to that first memory or that first moment when they were really, really young, where they had like this hint of,
I think it was when I scored my first goal.
oh, I'm gonna start to cry,
Pro
like literally.
Probably when I scored my first goal, I think, because like we were talking about earlier, the first game it was pretty tough, but then a few weekends after, I played really well. Scored my first goal, and I think I was just like, after that, I was like, holy shit, this is so much fun, and um, you want to be. After that, I was like, I'm gonna give my everything to keep this going, So, um,
I remember your first game.
yeah,
You were a little confused out there.
yeah, yeah.
um, it's just fun, I think, for parents to watch their kids find that passion in life and then use it and create this life for themselves. It's not about us, it's about you guys. Like you guys are using what you love and you're creating a life for yourself. And to me, there's no better gift for a parent than also to watch that happen and unfold for you.
Mhm.
So it's been really cool to be your mom and to watch this. So, do you think, and if you don't want to answer this, it's totally fine, but do you think that you going through those struggles, through the divorce, through the move, through those, because we've had some major transitions in this house,
Mhm.
from the divorce to then, for those that don't know, we sold our house across the street, moved into this little rental over here that was supposed to be for a year, and now we're on what year? 6, 5? I don't even know. Just haven't moved out. But do you think that going through those difficult times has helped you or hindered you? Like how do you think it's affected your play, or how do you think that do you think it's been an actual help in what you've been doing?
Mhm. I think it's definitely helped. I remember when I was kind of right when everything happened, when I was 13, um, I definitely struggled a bit, but I had my coaches, um, he also played at USC, and I played for his older brother in high school, but he was the one who was always there for me and kind of opened my eyes to everything may not be perfect at home, but there is a chance to make things like, I don't know, perfect here in the water. And it's a place for you to forget and just play. And I think those words from him will always stick with me. And I mean, that was just a guy that kind of went through not a similar situation, but he went through playing at USC, and he's learned all those. He definitely went through struggles of his own. I mean, I think everyone does, and that was just a guy imparting wisdom on a 13-year-old kid who, is now playing the same place that he was playing at, and yeah, I think it's definitely helped. Like, it's shaped me into who I am, and I think it's put a little bit of a chip on my shoulder. Remembering where I was, like where I come from, and um, the things that I've gone through, and I think it's helped. It's helped me now because you know, because I'm in college. It's like you're gonna go through challenging stuff, and I have been going through challenging stuff, and it's that edge, that chip on my shoulder that I think it put on me when I was younger. It's helped me now because I think any hard situation, I can kind of process it and take a step back and realize that, like everything is going to be okay at the end of the day. And um, I think I've become more okay with who I am throughout, all of the, the family, the divorce, all that stuff, and the move. And yeah, so I think it's helped me with struggles in the pool and struggles outside of the pool. Um, so yeah, I mean, grateful for that, I think.
What's the greatest advice that you've taken, or yes, that also the greatest lesson that you have taken from because I mean, there's so many kids that go through changes, right? Like hard challenges, mental health issues, where they're, up against mindset issues or whatever it is. What advice, if you were speaking to a younger version of yourself or to somebody else, what advice would you give them in terms of what you've learned through all of this?
Just to like just like the general public, or
Anybody,
like a
like
player, or
not a player, just the general public. Like any young person that's going through
Mhm.
a difficult time right now, where they're up against what they think is like the greatest battle, right?
Yeah, yeah,
Because
yeah.
it's always our greatest battle, right? To us.
Yeah. Um, I mean, definitely a hard question to answer, but I think I would say the most important thing is trying to find a community or a group, or can even just be friends or an activity, like something that you're passionate about, finding that passion within you for whatever it may be. I mean, for me, it was sports, but there's so many other things that, you can be interested in. I mean, and so I think that worked for me. And I would say that for anyone struggling with whatever it may be, especially if if you're young, um, I would say try new things, try new things. And um, I don't know if there's like a specific advice I could personally give, but I'm not even gonna try. I'm not gonna try. But that's my advice. Try and find something that you're passionate about, and somewhere that you can have a safe space. And uh yeah, I mean, it can be sports, art, music, it can even be school. Um yeah, so
I think that's a great advice. For me, it was the art room. I
mhm.
That's what got me into all the stuff that I'm in. So let's talk about transitioning into how the heck are you going to take this and use this in the real world? How does this transition all of this into the real world in terms of leadership, in terms of work, in terms of life, like creating what you want, having that resilience moving forward?
Yeah. Well, I think haven't had a job yet, but
Actually, that's not true, dude. Like I told you, I've
I
told you,
mean,
like, I'm gonna be mom here for a
no,
second.
no,
I've
no,
told you, I'm like,
no,
your
I
job
already
is
know,
gonna
I
be,
already know what you're gonna say, but
what am I gonna say?
you just said it,
Yeah,
but
your job is the being in the pool. That's been your
yeah,
job.
no, that's
It's a huge
no, yeah, it
job.
is a huge job, but
Leading that team is a freaking huge
no,
job. Like,
no, it's
I'm
a
gonna
huge
pat you
job.
on the back.
It's a huge job. I think in terms of translating into the real world, professionals are looking for people that, for example, a student at
Psst, this will air on LinkedIn.
a student a student at a 4-year university with a degree, they're going to look at that and say, okay, like this person showed up for 4 years, attended all their classes, graduated, and that's, back to the consistent habits that we were talking about. Um, Additionally, like, I'm also a student, and I think also having the athlete part, it's brings a lot more to the table, in terms of leadership, collaboration, teamwork. Um, and that's what I think people are looking for is someone who is reliable and consistent. And so I think being a student athlete at USC for 4 years, I definitely have, proved that, that I can be somewhere and, thrive in one place for many years. And the end of the day, like it's the same way in a real job and whatever you may be doing. That's my answer.
Have you ever wanted to quit?
Yeah, I think there have been times when I have wanted to quit, more so when I was younger. I guess now recently, honestly, I wasn't sure if I wanted to play another season, just because I felt like I kind of wanted to get on with my professional career, and I still don't know exactly if I'm gonna play um, professionally overseas yet or not. So I have to decide on that. But I was definitely not unsure if I was gonna take. 'Cause for anyone who doesn't know, basically, I was a freshman during the whole COVID pandemic, so I played that season. But then they gave us another year of eligibility because it was a postponed and shortened season with no fans. So they gave us
You had
another.
fans. They
They
were
gave us
listening.
another year of eligibility, which I will be taking next fall. So. Um, but in a normal, if there was no COVID, then I would be fully done this spring. Which is pretty crazy to think about.
Yeah.
But so I'm not done yet.
You're not done yet.
Yeah.
You got one more thing to take care of, which
Yeah, yeah.
we know what that is. Okay, so have you ever had imposter syndrome in the pool? Have you ever, you know what imposter syndrome is? Where like you feel like you're not really the like you're not
Not being yourself.
you're not being yourself, right? Like am I really the leader? Am I really the can I really do this? Um have you ever experienced imposter syndrome? Or like
Yeah, actually this season.
where you felt like you were a saboteur? Like
Yeah, actually this season I did. At
really?
the beginning of the season, I think he was stepping into the captain role. We had a brand new team, and so it was hard to. I was like, I was a captain senior year of high school, but being a captain at this level is completely different. It's a lot more demanding, and I think setting an example was there's always eyes on you, and you always want to lead by example. And so I think I felt like I wasn't doing that for whatever reason in the first few games of the season. Um, but again, like I worked through that. I started journaling actually, so that was one of my new hobbies that I got into. I started talking to a sports psychiatrist or therapist, who the university offers, the athletic department offers that to all the athletes, so it was very accessible for me. And honestly, I was upset with myself that I didn't do it sooner in my career at USC because I had one when I was in high school and it really helped me. And so when I started to play a lot better, I was like, why didn't I, do this earlier? But yeah, I definitely had imposter syndrome at the beginning of the season, I think. And I think that was just trying to figure out my role on the team, which obviously is the captain role, but um, I'm one of two captains, so there's one other captain. And so I think it was trying to figure out how to, lead the team with another guy, good friend of mine, and being the voice of reason. I think it's a very challenging role to step into, especially if you're not familiar with the role. But I think, you look at old captains from the past and it's like, what do I want to take from them that I liked? What do I want to not take from them? And I think it's just trying to step into your own. And I think I did that. And at this point, I'm really content with how I did that. And, um, I'm now it's like I'm very confident going into this next year. So, yeah.
What are your goals for this year, or do you plan for the year ahead? Do you personally plan for the year ahead? I mean, you talked a little bit about journaling, which is awesome. I was so excited to hear that you were doing that. Um, do you plan for the year ahead, like goals, or like do you have any goals or intentions or anything for your 2024?
Like water polo wise, or
Yeah, I mean, like in life for you, or in water polo, or anything.
for water polo, I would say, I mean, we're in the off season now, so it's more so about getting all the guys on the same page. Because it's easy to slack off a little in the off season because you think that like December, which is when the NCAA tournament is so far away, but it's obviously like you have to have time to kind of rewind and reset, but it's also important that again, like you're improving 1% every day. At least for us in the off season, it's a lot of technical work. So I think getting everyone like individually a little bit better. That's my goal as a captain. I want everyone to walk out of this spring feeling like they got better in some way. And I think, me too, I have some personal goals for myself, like simple things like I want to get faster. I want to gain a few pounds of muscle, um, improve my shot, like little things like that. But the overarching goal that I have in my head is getting everyone else better and making everyone else better around me
Hmm.
so that everyone can be on the same page. And, I want to elevate everyone's experience and play. So I think that's one of the most important things as a leader is, and a great teammate in general, is just making everyone around you better. That's that's one thing that's the most important thing I'm going to be focusing on this entire year, not just the spring, the summer, and in the fall. Um, the biggest goal this year is to win the national championship. I mean, easily the biggest goal of 2024. Yeah, I haven't really made any personal goals now that I think about it. It's more so water polo related, but
But I think that those are also personal, right? Like
yeah, no, they're definitely
water
personal.
polo for you is
Um,
very personal.
yeah, yeah. So I'd say right now it's one of the most important things. So yeah.
Okay, one last question. I'm going to ask you. Well, actually, let's do this. Do you have any questions for me?
Um,
Let's flip the script because we don't do that enough in our family. Let's flip the script. Do you have any questions for me?
have you ever had what are some like have you ever had imposter syndrome?
Oh, hell yeah. Oh
What were like some
gosh.
moments?
I would say
Like was it on stage or maybe before
um
preparing?
I would say my very first I've had many. The very first time that I was getting my commercial use authorization, when I was getting my wilderness first responder certification, my teacher made me cry. He yelled at me and told me that I, quote, killed the person because I didn't know how to do the correct saving technique, like how to technically or how to save them correctly.
Uh-huh.
And that was like, okay, can I even do this? Am I stepping into something that's bigger than me? And am I going to be able to succeed or really step into this role? Because it's a leadership role in a different way. Like you're guiding people through the Grand Canyon. And then when I had people questioning me with that, like, what the heck are you doing taking people into the Grand Canyon when you're in your 40s and starting this whole new, job that nobody else had done? Nobody was doing the type of work that I was doing back then. And I remember my very first retreat the night before that I was hiking everybody in, and I was like, what am I doing? Like, can I do this?
Yeah.
Like, what the hell am I doing? And then when I was down at the bottom of the Grand Canyon, I don't know if you know the story, but I was down at the bottom of the Grand Canyon and people were actually asking me, like, what are you guys doing down here? They were calling it, they were calling it voodoo shit. They literally were like, what is this voodoo shit that you're doing down here with your clients?
Mm-hmm.
And I said, well, what do you mean? Like, I'm taking them through meditation and through visualization, and I'm coaching, and we're hiking and we're adventuring and we're, stepping outside of our comfort zone. Funny enough, a couple of retreats ago, I had somebody come to me and ask if I could certify them to do the same work. Because they were like, I've been watching you and I love the work that you're doing. Is there a certification process that we can go through to get certified to do what you do? And I said, well, no, because I don't certify people. I've never created a program for it. It's just what I do. And I think that was like, I went back to that moment, that very first moment where I was taking people in. I was thinking, okay, how funny that at one time I was like, had this major imposter syndrome of, can I even do this?
Mm-hmm.
But standing on stage, I've never felt like an imposter on stage, because I feel like the world is like your stage, right? Like, your stage is in the pool. Your stage is before you are jumping into the pool to start that game. Your stage is right now, like sharing what you're sharing. And so I've never really looked at being on stage as being imposter, I guess. It's just like, to me, it's an extension of the work that I've always done. It's just delivering it in a different way to an audience,
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So I have, though, felt that imposter many, many times,
Mm-hmm.
many times. It's not a fun feeling.
No, it's not.
It's not. But how have you worked through it?
I mean, for me, like this year's journaling and talking to someone, I think that helps the most. And just kind of, for me, like talking about things helps. I think just getting out the internal feelings, not internalizing anything is was the biggest thing for me. And trying to understand why I was feeling that way, and realizing that at the end of the day, like you're doing something that you love. I mean, what reason is there to feel like you're not yourself? I mean, there can be a lot of reasons, but at the end of the day, for me, it was realizing like, hey, I'm doing something that I love with guys that I love, at a school that I love. There's no reason to, have, because in 30 years from now, I guarantee I'll look back on it. I mean, I'm looking back on it now for the times that I was feeling that way, and I'm like, what the heck was I thinking? Because I was mentally taking myself out of the whatever it was, maybe training or a game, and it's happened a few times, but in my mind, it's like it shouldn't have to. I mean, I'm so young, like there really should be no reason why I feel that way. Just go out and play and have fun, like and give it your all.
And you know what got me out of it? What got me out of it was how many times that I have said to you guys, I believe in you, right? Like, I believe in you guys. I believe in what's possible in your life, in your dreams, in your goals, and your aspirations. And so for me, I remember sitting there like, okay, if I'm going to state this to them, then where does it have to start? It has to start with believing in myself.
Mm-hmm.
And so if I can believe in myself, and I believe in all of you, you're an extension of me, then doesn't that just ripple more into you guys too? Right.
Yeah.
And so,
Yeah,
anyhow.
I think it was also just having like waking up, and at least for me, like more recently, I've just been more grateful, I would say, just for like simple things like good health, live in a a good place of the world and able to have food and water. And it's been little things like that. I think it makes you see the bigger picture more. For me, the bigger picture was, water polo and um, in school. And so yeah, I think those being more grateful was another thing that kind of just like,
Gratitude's huge.
yeah, gratitude. Yeah.
Huge.
Mhm.
All right. Any last comments that that you want to share? Is there any last tidbit of information?
Don't think so. I think we hit
We've hit a
a
lot.
good amount.
We have. Thank you for being here.
Of
Thank you for being my son.
course.
I have three of the greatest boys, I have to say. Like,
Mhm.
you guys all rock. I have no other words, but I'm just super proud of every one of you. So, will you come on again at some point?
Maybe we'll see the reviews.
You know what I would love is if you could also get Christian on with us. That would be very fun. If we could do like a three-way conversation of because he's basketball and like sports and maybe you mentoring him, that would be really fun. Not to throw you on the spot or anything, I'm sorry, but it would be really, really fun.
Yeah.
Okay.
Christian, I'm not sure. I would be open to coming on again.
Awesome. Thank you. Okay. Share this, please, with your friends, with your family, and let's keep the ripple going because maybe with this episode, we'll get into like, maybe we'll double it. If we've been in 24, maybe we'll get into 48 countries just with this episode. What do you think? Croatia for sure.
Maybe.
You got a lot of friends over there.
Maybe.
Okay. Thanks everybody for being a part of this and till next time.